Okay, it's 6:30. We'll call the meeting to order. Start off with the roll call. Councilperson Holthouse. Here. Councilperson Bedwell. Here. Councilperson Vasquez.
Here.
Councilperson Light. Here. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved and second to approve the consent agenda. We will vote. Councilperson Vasquez.
Yes.
Councilperson Light.
Yes.
Councilperson Bedwell.
Yes.
And Councilperson Holthouse.
Yes.
Okay, go to new business. Special council meeting for the first meeting for the set public hearings date for Tuesday, April 7th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. for the property tax levy hearing.
Yes, so this was changed last year that we have to have two separate meetings. So, meeting one, on April 7th will be for the public hearing to set the property tax levy.
I'll motion to approve that date for the property tax levy hearing.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to set the public hearing for Tuesday, April 7th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. We will vote. Councilperson Light.
Yes.
Councilperson Vasquez.
Yes.
Councilperson Holthouse.
Yes.
Councilperson Bedwell.
Yes.
I should have caught this. Is that the correct date? April 7th?
Oh, it's April 8th. isn't it?
April 8th.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Okay, let me check.
Is it like a days, number of days, 14 days or something that has to be?
Let me check. On the timeline. Okay, so on the timeline, it says April 7th, so it should be, is it a Tuesday? Is that what you're saying?
Tuesday, Monday is the 7th, so.
So
Which
yeah,
is
if
fine.
it's fine. I don't, either day.
Oh, yeah, so it needs to be the 7th, so that should be Monday, not Tuesday. Thank you for correcting that.
Do we need to redo that vote?
I think the date stands.
Or just make sure it's gonna be the,
Date is fine, because the date's there.
Yeah, it was just the date of the week I had in mind.
okay, so, okay.
Okay, and then the second one is the set a special council meeting for Monday, the 21st. And we will do the public hearing, 6:30 for the full budget adoption hearing.
Make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to set the special council meeting for Monday, April 21st, 2025. We'll vote. Councilperson Light.
Yes.
Councilperson Bedwell.
Yes.
Councilperson Holthouse.
Yes.
Councilperson Vasquez.
Yes.
Okay. And then the next one I have to propose is a public hearing for budget amendment number 1 for this year, fiscal 2025 budget. This will be the first budget amendment. And I would just propose we do this on the regular council meeting for February 12th at 6:30.
Make a motion to set the public hearing for our regular meeting on February 12th for fiscal year 25 amended budget amendment.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to have that public hearing for February 12th for amendment number 1 at 6:30. We'll vote. Councilperson Bettel.
Yes.
Councilperson Holthoff.
Yes.
Councilperson Light.
Yes.
Councilperson Vasky.
Yes.
We're in our budget work session.
Okay, so just some formality things. I'm using the same similar process that I did last year, trying to prepare documents for you in your binder. You will be able to take these with you. What I would like is to possibly get them back before the next budget meeting so that I can fill them with updated pages and information that we'll use for that next meeting, which right now is scheduled for January 28th. And that's a Tuesday, I believe.
I think that's.
Tuesday?
I don't know.
The 28th. So a few things that I just wanted to give a quick little update on that is in my notes here were regarding the capital improvement plan. So some of the items in the capital improvement plan, which I did put a copy of the new final draft so that we can use that for our planning. That's probably in the back of your binder, and I think your tab may say capital projects, capital improvement projects, is that what it says? So if you look on page 9, you will see the plan for yet this year, which is FY '25. And I just wanted to give you a brief update because when Trent Kramer and I had our budget meeting, we did also talk about the items that are on the fiscal year '25 budget. So that would include purchase of skid loader. So we have this in here and we have down that we were going to work on the skid loader would be $40,000 from road use or rut, and then the additional dollars were going to come from water. I think that's about right. I think it was 80,000 was our estimate. So Trent has worked and put together a skid loader spec, and that spec has been sent out for bid. Those will be coming sealed bids back to the office here at City Hall on January 29th. So those will come sealed bids January 29th. Do you guys have questions about that?
I mean, if we want to get into the call or how we want to pay for that, I had some thoughts, but I don't want to cover what you want to cover.
Okay, well, so yeah, we can do that. I just have down, based on the conversation that we had, sorry about that. It looks like, I looked at the 40,000, but it looks like 40,000 from road use, and then at the bottom of the page, 20,000 from cash from water and 20,000 from the sewer cash was what it looked like we were going to share that expense for 80,000 if I did my math correct. At least this is what was discussed like during that SIP plan meeting.
I see, so half of it is up in the general portion and half of it's in the utility portion.
Yep, so half of it would come from the road use, which is special revenue fund.
Yep.
And then the other half would come out of enterprise or utility fund.
My thought was, I'd rather see that water get switched to the road use instead. If we're doing a project like the water storage, let's not spend money out of that fund if we don't have to, so that it lessens the burden of the water costs to the
Patrons.
to our citizens. So that's my opinion. We should just take 60 out of that. if that's the only other option, but I'd rather not spend money on water for that.
Storm sewer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
So it's
do
gotta
have
be used
storm
for storm
sewer.
sewer
Yep,
projects.
so I just printed off the cash report, that's definitely another option. So right now, that the storm sewer, which again is collected and set aside for projects and use. Right now, the storm sewer has $97,533 in storm sewer. So I mean, if you would rather see it come out of the storm sewer, then I think that makes sense.
I would be curious to know if Trent, like what he's got planned with, if he's got some projects in the pipe for that 97,000. And if it made more sense to use the rut, because the rut balance was pretty significant. I don't know, it's like 290,000 or so.
318, yep.
Yeah, so
But remember the rut,
we were gonna use for some of the other
well, for
capital projects.
this budget, yep, for FY '26, we moved the Big Miller Lane Drive overlay, which is estimated at like 203,000, to all come out of rut. That's how, if you look down below, that's how we currently have that overlay project.
And I'm sure there's probably like, don't we spend about 40,000 for seal coating?
And that comes out of lost.
Oh, that's,
Yep, so we take the 45,000 for chip seal, comes out of the lost.
do
So,
we have any other expense planned for?
well, we do use operating, we use an operating fund with our rec dollars as well, the streets. But in terms of bigger projects and capital, these were the two big things. I do like the idea, it makes sense with the water project, the larger water project, I think that's a good idea, that not taking 20,000 of it from water until we see where we are with the project, and that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with that. I think depending on if it's where it comes from, I think if we could just circle back with Trent on the, what's currently in road. What did you say?
Storm sewer.
Storms, thank you.
Okay, so I'm just gonna repeat this back. So still looking at the 40,000 from the rut, and then minus the 20 from water, and replace that with 20,000 from storm sewer. And then 20,000 from sewer. Does that sound right?
Sounds fair.
Make sense? Okay. So then we'll. All right, yep, so I can talk to him about that. The other update that I wanted to give you still for this year's capital improvement plan, we had discussed trying to replace all the meters, the water meters, and get the new radios on the meters and what that would cost. One of the transfers that we did would that have been like July or August, had that sewer conveyance dollars in there that was like 64,000. It had been in a sewer conveyance fund since like 2017. And we transferred that after that council meeting, it's almost $64,000. We transferred that to sewer, and we did that thinking that we would buy meters for this capital replacement plan we had said was like 5 years, and then I wanna say maybe Josh suggested if we can use some of these dollars that are just transferred in there and get as many of them as we can, then what's left with our spreadsheet of everybody getting the new radios, meters, I think leaves us at like only $9,000 or $10,000 left to replace for FY '26.
How many is there left to replace them?
Oh, there was still a chunk because we had only been setting aside a total of, it seems like we were doing 16,500 from sewer and 8,500 from water, which was only 25,000 each year. So when we started discussing that, I had, Trent and Luke sit down with our person from municipal supply on the meters to tell us exactly in a spreadsheet, how many have we replaced, how many more do we have? And there was a significant number, like it was gonna take us almost more than 4 years to get through that cycle if we were only putting 25,000 in. So we talked about taking that 64,000, almost 64,000, and just start doing that. I think this is a good time for them when it's not snowing, it's not terrible weather, that they can go out and start placing new meters. So we were gonna go ahead and move forward on that since the transfer has already been done. Any questions or thoughts on that?
So what are you asking us as far as,
Nothing,
How
that was
that
just an
has-
update, yep.
that doesn't change anything?
Nope, that was just, I had 2 capital improvement plan updates that I wanted to share with you guys before we started talking about FY '26, just to update you and let you know kind of where we were with those 2 items.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, so if we go back to the beginning of the budget binder, I'm afraid that yours looks just a little bit different than mine, but you should have an FY '26 budget timeline. Melissa, do you remember what tab that is for them?
Timeline's the first page.
Is it your first page? Okay, perfect. So I did make some corrections to this. I'm gonna try and update this as we come so that you guys have always the updated. So I moved the setting the special meetings for April to get those out of the way. So, we'll have both of those. And did that for January 15th. We have a January 28th budget session and then our next council meeting. So we are right on track for those. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and flip to the budget session memo 2, which I believe is also right here. And stop me at any time if you have questions or things that you want to chat about. So I just wanted to put a lot of this is just informational to kind of show us staying with our timeline and on track. So the purpose of our special city council budget work sessions is to prepare and propose our FY '26 budget for the city. So I try and prepare as much with the expenses and revenues for you and kind of share the big picture ideas. Last year, the city of Urbana, our property tax levy was 14.326 per 1,000 assessed. And so that actually stayed that way for 2 years. So it was for 2025 and also 2024. I just wanted to review because I know Shane was not here for the November meeting as a council member. But we did have a previous meeting in November, and the purpose of that meeting was to share a lot of information with the council on the general fund for FY '24, what we actually spent for expenses, and what we budgeted for FY '25. The areas that we reviewed was most of the general fund, and we talked about percentages there, and we reviewed each fund then for actual versus budgeted, and then did a deeper budget analysis with data for the police department. I kind of left that open for you guys to take in that information and kind of think about that. You left me with a couple of things for the budget that I hope to work on. with you tonight. So the other thing on here would be, I'm just referencing that I've put together a memo for this year's FY25 for a budget amendment. So I will get documents to you. I already got documents to you. And we'll be able to go through that and set that hearing then for February 12th, which you already did. So another item going into this year, so as of January, one of the, I wanted to update you. I got an email from our lead auditor. The auditors were here in December, and she wrote back that tomorrow her manager actually retires. So Gary and I were set to have an exit interview with the lead auditor and the manager, which happens every time you have an audit. But we will not be able to do that now until the new manager comes on board. And so she's going to have to update that person. So we'll have a new manager that'll go through our exit interview. So she was hoping it was going to happen right after Christmas, and changes have been made. So just so you guys know that that has not occurred yet. But another one, I'm still moving forward. They were very good about giving, best practices and what we can do to make some changes here. Actually, the two that I was able to provide from our last council meeting on the 8th, which was, I believe, the petty cash policy as well as the credit card update. I was able to get that to her, and they have not formally written the audit review. So it could be that those were in there for suggestions and may not show up now. So I'm not sure how that will look, but I did go ahead and submit that to her already. So one of the suggestions that they made, and I brought this up a little bit because I know Jeff has asked me some good questions about general fund and reserves and what our reserves are. So one of the things that I noticed when I started, we have, if you look at your cash report each month, actually, do you guys want a copy? Did I give you a copy of the cash report? Otherwise, maybe I'll have Melissa make a quick copy of the cash reports for you. Melissa, can you make quick copies of these? You can do it front to back, that's fine. It's just two of them. But I will go ahead and just keep talking then while she grabs it. Basically, the city has a money market account that was created. I believe that the money market was created as a general fund reserve. So this is where the uniqueness comes in that this bank up here was purchased by another bank. And so our online banking only goes back so far. And the account was already established, and I believe I went back to as quickly as April 2022. So then I need to find old bank statements from the vault, which is always a fun little, kind of like a treasure hunt, to find those statements. And either way, what I believe was happening is that at the end of the year, you have those funds in which the council will typically decide, okay, if we have this much money in the general fund at the end of the year, maybe a percentage of that will get put into the reserves. Same thing with the water and sewer. We have water and sewer are enterprise funds. So at the end of that year, what we have taken in, what we've expended, if there's any dollars left after the sewer SRF loan has been paid, or after the $100,000 additional payment has been paid, if there are additional dollars, it's suggested that that gets moved into a reserve. So if you look on the cash report, we have water sinking, water reserve. We have a sewer, which is our operating, and then we have a sewer sinking and sewer reserve. Okay? Trent and I had to talk about this, and Trent says it hasn't been done to his knowledge that much of the water or sewer was getting transferred at the end of the year into a reserve. So we're gonna try and have a conversation as we get closer, hopefully to June, of knowing what our expenditures are, have another conversation here with the council of, if we have dollars, are we going to move some of those dollars? So the auditors suggested, when they were here, our bank one, which is reconciled our main checking account plus this money market account. So every month, the previous clerks, they would reconcile those two accounts together, even though they're actually two separate accounts at the bank. And the one carries $426,000 about in the account. So the suggestion is that should really be separate than what is in your general fund. Because on your cash report, you want to be able to know, like, somebody looking at that may make the assumption that the city has, $796,000 budgeted in there, but we do not. We don't have that full 426. We have that more off to the side as our reserve. And so the suggestion was that we pull that money market out of the software in Bank One and create its own bank. So that's very similar to how we have a library account up at the bank. We have a parks account that now only has like $6.59 in it. We have an equipment account, which I think has $7,600 in it from the selling of an old skid loader or something. And then, as you can see on page 2, the $426,404 is now on page 2, and it is set up as Bank 6, the BK6 next to it. It brings in its own interest. It is its separate account. Therefore, they feel that it definitely needs to be reconciled separately. The interest needs to be gathered separately, and it should be reconciled each month as a separate account.
So our tax revenue, we receive goes into this general checking account.
Yes. Yes.
And we haven't been transferring into this money market.
No.
So this is kind of a bloated number if we.
Right, so it's bloated right now, very much so. So when you look at the December cash, where it says the $796,000, that $796,000 includes that $426,000, which was where the auditors were like, you probably don't want to do that, because if it's a cash reserve, if it's a money market, if it's an investment, a CD, whatever it is, you don't just want it floating in your general fund like that. So what you would see is in January, the disbursement, it says 489 because it's going to include everything that was disbursed in January. So $426,404.30 of that is being taken out basically of the general fund and transferred into this fund.
How did we get that number? What does that represent? 426,404.
That is the amount that is in that account.
In that general.
It's
Money
in
came
the
from-
separate money market
In
account
the
Yeah, but
money
it
market.
came from.
somewhere.
Oh, you're not saying that wasn't from the general?
No, so I've gone back
Oh.
years already. It could have been a combination of a clerk adding, like maybe $100,000 if there was excess in the sewer. There could have been sometimes bond proceeds that are sold, whatever's left. If there's an amount that a project had gone over, they may put it into an account or invest it. And I haven't been able to find all of that paperwork right now. Since doing this, I've been able to go back through all bank statements just through 2022. And the only transactions since 2022 have just been the interest on that amount of money.
I'm still not clear because this BK6
Yep.
says December 0. So this didn't have a balance in December.
No. So this is the software. So we created this in January. So when we created it, it's always going to show in the software, what was the balance for bank six? It was 0 because there was nothing there. And so what we did here in January, just this week with G-Works, is we did that in January. So your January column now for bank six will show the January cash balance, which is what the exact balance that's on the statement from the bank is that amount. And you'll see up on page 1, under the general, 001 checking general, if you go to the column that says January disbursements, $489,985, 426,000 of that is that money market moving into a separate bank account. Does that make sense? We just don't want that to be out there to look like those dollars are always like committed and invested, and really we're trying to keep those back. Does that make sense? And again, hopefully that will be in the audit and they will explain it better to Gary and I again, but that was the first thing that they wanted me to do come January, to start doing that. So hopefully that's understandable. That makes sense?
Yep, thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I have that. Next thing under the memo, still on page 1, says library. So I had a chance to meet with the library. I believe I met with Carrie and Al on Monday, like 4 to 5:30. And we discussed the library. First thing that we discussed, so I have sheets for you guys, and I think it's called Budget in a Brief tab. And if you go to the 4th page, these look like this, and they say budget report at the top. If you go to like the 4th one, it should say library, I think, at the top. And if you guys don't mind, just nod to me if you see it, otherwise I can let you know. Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you, class. Okay, so the first one here, you can see the total budget for the library is $73,922. Okay? So one of the first questions that I had at the library that I do believe we should discuss is in terms of an increase for the library for next year, wages. The librarian, Carrie Burkhardt, is a city employee. Our city employees received this year a 3% raise, and we'll discuss the employees for FY26. I believe, and Al felt the same way, that with a city employee, the city employees should still get the same raise increase that the other employees get. So with that said, and I want to tell you too, the $32,822, that's not all Carrie's salary. Part of that was, somebody can help me out, it's so that the library can pay like 5 people at different times, like $15 an hour or something like that, so that if they have volunteers that can come in and open or do projects or help them. So there's like, I don't know.
These numbers represent 26, right?
Yes,
This is the project, this is what we're requesting for a budget, right?
yes.
Okay.
With Carrie, that would be with Carrie's 3%, but what I'm saying is hers is like 28,000 something is what she makes a year. So there's like an additional, what would that be, 3,000 something that the library sets aside so that they can pay other people to come in and help in the library. So if Carrie's sick and they need it open, a volunteer can come in and they can give them at least something. So I wanted you to know that part. The other thing that we talked about is moving some of those blank 0. We're gonna just move most all of this to office supplies. It makes it easier because in our office at City Hall, we don't manage what necessarily she's been given permission by friends or the board or whoever it is. We just manage the money that comes in. So like if she's been given permission to purchase things, then we manage on the credit card, make sure all the receipts line up, pay the credit card, do all of those things, and pay out the bill. Does that make sense? So, so we just moved all of those things into the office supply section. Because the library really doesn't spend city insurance for the property insurance. They do not really control anything with $4,000 estimated for utilities. And we just keep the 2,000 there in case we have to have maintenance repair. So really that way she works kind of within that one line item, which is like office supplies, books, furniture, whatever it is that the library needs. So one of the things that we discussed was, how does the city council feel about Carrie getting the same? So like this year, the city employees, which would be the non-bargaining employees, had a 3% raise increase. Al mentioned that he feels that whatever the city decides, the contract that is the board keeps the contract with her or does the contract with her, right? The board. And so that the board contract for her, that they both align. So right now, it doesn't say anything in there about, the city pays her or about a raise each year. So that's where we were wondering, regardless of what she does for a city employee, we should make sure that if we do 3%, then it's reflected in her contract, and Al agreed that the contract then with the board should be adjusted to read the same. Does that make sense? Just so that the two documents say the same thing. So that's the first part of the library. The second part of the library is, I told them that I don't really feel at this time that we have new money that we can allocate to the library. However, I do think that it makes very much sense that we have an account at the bank that is already set up that is the library's money. And I believe it's from the sale of the building and then what was left from the build out, I believe. And after all that was paid, the library account at the bank that I reconcile each month still has $25,621.66. I do believe that, obviously, the money belongs to the library, and they're a new library. I know that they had applied for a Benton County grant this year. I think it's a Benton County Foundation grant that the Friends maybe have gotten each year, and I believe that they didn't get that grant, which is a significant dollar amount that helps them fund these activities and new books. So I would like to propose that instead of coming from the city budget, I would propose that we do a library budget transfer and take the library dollars that belong to the library in the bank account and simply transfer that to their line item. So if you would flip back to their page, that office supplies page, and just simply add that dollar amount right there to their spending. Which if you turn the page, I provided another sheet for you that would show what that line item would look like after I transfer that library dollars into their account. Do you guys see where I have it highlighted? So I would like to know your thoughts on that, and if so, we could do that transfer. I could have a transfer like that ready for the February meeting, that we could do the transfer.
So what happens if they don't spend it all? Does it go back to the general fund?
Nope, I'm going to propose that it stays in the library fund because it does belong to the library.
I mean, at the end of the year, if
Yes.
they don't use it all, where does it go?
It would be, wouldn't it just be in
Can we just maintain?
Yeah, I think that,
Back in.
checking, the general checking?
yeah, it probably, yeah, and then we transfer, yeah. So I'll know at the end of the year exactly what's been expended from the account so that I can go back in and make sure that we have everything put back in, so that whatever is left there, we keep there.
The only thing so if you wouldn't need to reflect this here if you did it now, if we did it now, right? Because that was.
Right, this is for FY '26,
So
so,
if they transferred that, if that was done and they have that money transferred this
Right.
right now, that was my only question to that thought.
Yep, you're
Are they
right.
gonna- To Josh's point, do they have, something they're looking to spend that money on?
yeah,
Because if they don't, I wouldn't suggest doing that, but.
yes, so Carrie was used, I think, the majority of her dollars this year. I'm looking for that page again. Yeah, so if we go ahead and did that in February, it would be available now, and they could spend dollars between now and June 30th. Yeah, June 30th. So that would be, then that second page wouldn't be necessary. So I know that she spent a big chunk of the office supply on one genre of new books. So they have like 6 big genres, I think, that they do. And they said that they needed new shelving. So one of the things that they want to do is, they've taken in so many donated books, but at the same time, a lot of the donated books are very old. Maybe not all books that people would want to actively check out, I like to think of it as like, we used to take our kids to Barnes and Noble, and there's something about new books and things like that, or when the librarian reads the book, you want to make sure that that book's available because kids want to check it out. So I think the majority of it was getting replacements into each of those genres that are newer books. And then I think they said shelving.
I don't have any problem with that at all. If that's what they prefer to have it now, to spend that money, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that, add that to that amendment.
Okay, so yes, so the FY '25. And do you guys want to do a motion for that, or is an agreement okay?
It's their money.
I know, that's why I'm like, we kind of ran into that before, it's their money, I don't know that,
Yeah, if you want to add it to that budget amendment, and we'll have a public hearing on it, and then there will be a resolution.
Yeah, I think that would be my only thing, is make sure that we're communicating that that's what we're doing and that it's really their money. It's just going to be roll within our software that way as such. So it doesn't look like,
right.
Yep. Something somewhere else.
Okay. All right, so I will talk to them about that too. Okay, so some of the big things, because I didn't want to keep you guys here, but, so some of the big things are right here up front in the budget amendment. So if you take this home with you, I started going line by line and updating the expenses and revenues tabs. And those are long, but they're there. But what I really wanted to talk about is the pages that say budget report. The FY '26 wages are already in place for the bargaining unit. So we just did that. So those employees, we will already have what their wages will be for FY '26. So right now, one of the things that you guys had suggested was, to just do some generic figuring of wages, like for police, for example. What would police look like with one chief, no reserves? What would it look like for these scenarios? So I put that on there and I reflected that for you.
That's what this.
Yep, so the first page that, yep, it says wages
Right.
at the top, yep.
Reflects the 3%. The percentage.
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
Excuse me.
And then as you guys know, the public works employees are split. Their wages, FICA IPers are all split between parks, streets, RUD, water, sewer. And then,
Where's the breakout of? Oh, I got it, never mind. That's it.
okay, so I tried to do I put that in there, and then the third page, like after the wages, the negotiated wages, I included, all the FICA, IPers, workman's comp, unemployment for the employees and what that total benefits are. And then I'm still waiting to hear back on the following page. You can see for FY '25, this is the insurance page. So for FY '25 insurance, each employee to have the benefits is $21,936. 12% of that insurance premium is paid by the employee. And I put the employee's amount there, the 12%, and the remaining is paid by the employer. So the insurance company has not gotten back to me yet. We're a little early yet for their projections, but I just plugged in 22,000, which is not a lot, not enough of an increase whatsoever, but it just gave me a number to put in there. Because the employees then will pay 13%, because that was part of the reopener for negotiations, is that they would pay 13% rather than 12%. So that's kind of the biggest thing, is the wages. The FY '26 bargaining will have 3% raised. I wasn't sure where you guys are with the other employees for the city. And if you want to keep it the same, if you wanted it to be different. I know I did have a conversation regarding evaluations. So right now, obviously, evaluations tend to fall around people's anniversaries. I think maybe I might have had a conversation with Amanda about this. And it kind of scatters all of these evaluations. And after brainstorming with Amanda, I really kind of like her idea. Because, you know, Trent's is at a time. I did all 3 public works with Trent. And then I did Melissa's evaluation, and then set up a time to do my own personal evaluation with Mayor Benson. And I think it would work best if we, for this FY '26, started and put like in January 1 of 2026, that's where we start evaluations, and that we have them wrapped up before March 1st. So that all of that information then can go right into budget then. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but manager-wise, it would be awesome to be able to have them like at a time, and then everybody, because we ran into the issue of the resolution wasn't done on time, my fault, the wage resolution. And then we ended up separating the wage resolution from bargaining employees, non-bargaining employees, and then it wasn't approved. So then everything had to be taken back out of the software and done again, and some, rebated because of where it fell. And I just feel like it would be more helpful if it all kind of flowed. Did you have anything to say about that conversation?
No, I mean, that's just my personal experience as a manager, and I agree with Jennifer. It just works really well. You do it in the first few months of the year, and then based on when increases happen, it would align then with our budget more.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
I think the other piece with the increases, and I don't know if we're there yet, but at some point, I'd like to see, like, I know 3% we throw out there, and we're rolling like, you know, really it's a market, we haven't really done anything with merit. I'd like to, at some point, kind of get into something like that where we have a cap, right? Like, I mean, are we gonna continue to elevate an increase, I guess, would be probably the more appropriate word, increase 3% every year. But at what point does that person reach the max of their pay grade or whatever for their position? We don't have pay grades or anything like that developed yet, so we're definitely not there for this coming fiscal year, but I
Well,
just,
not to mention, we don't always have the growth to cover.
right,
the
3%, exactly.
significance.
Yeah, I mean,
This is a big thing.
yeah, I mean, since I've been here, there really hasn't been necessarily a rhyme or reason as to how we get to the 3%. It's just what we've done and we, you know, can we do it? We do it. So I don't know that, like from a strategy perspective and as things kind of ratchet down, I think, yeah, do we have the growth? Does it make sense? To do
So when
that?
will we have, will we know, like, what our, you know,
Growth
income
from.
or revenue will be? Do we have any projections on that?
As soon as I start, like, after some of these meetings, I'm gonna start plugging it into the site, so the Department of Management site. And based on all of that, it'll start adjusting then on that front page where we are with our levy. Is that what you're asking?
No, I was asking, like, what the revenue would be, like, how we know what
What our new money is?
Right.
Yeah, so we have to put all of this, so last year they started that ratcheting down formula. Sorry, so that all gets put into that front page before we even start. And last year, we had 8% growth, which is one of the highest categories in the state for 8% growth. But of course, because of the ratcheting down and the state trying to get everyone back to that 810, we didn't see a significant amount of new money like we would have with an 8% growth. So as soon as I leave, a lot of this, that's what I was going to say, a lot of what we have presented, I can start putting into the DOM's website now, because if you look at like the memo, in the general fund, I've just highlighted, so police will be one that we will need to look at. The building inspector, with the recent resignation of Jerry Michael with the building inspector, his current permits, he's proposing would be done around March 15th or early March. I have contacted Benton County to see if they have a building inspector, because I know that Center Point, like, contracts with Lynn County. Obviously Atkins is losing because Jerry works with Atkins. I reached out to Benton County. Benton County does not have a building inspector for the county, so that's not an option to contract with them. I did reach out to Chris Ward at Vinton to see what Vinton does. Vinton has a code enforcer / building inspector that works within the police department, I believe he works. And asked him if they would be interested in possibly contracting with Urbana, but if that could be an option. And then the next step would be going out and just seeing what does it take to be a building inspector, and do we advertise as a position, a part-time position?
Yeah, because we're gonna have to do something soon,
Right,
because we can't accept any new.
right. He does not want to take on any
Permits.
new permits. I know that, with some of the questions that I have, the city engineer is able to answer some of my questions, but yeah, we will want to kind of figure out what we want to do or what it takes to be a building inspector in the state of Iowa.
Have we had any permits turned in since he put his resignation
Inquiries, yes, we've had 2 inquiries, I believe, since he turned in, and they're for bigger, like one of them's kind of commercial. Another one is like a side shed. The couple that came in, wasn't that shed?
Yeah, that one got approved. He did approve it.
Oh, I know he approved it, but I wasn't
Oh,
sure if he
sorry.
was like taking it once he approved it.
Yeah, he did.
So,
Well,
so
what
yeah, I mean, we get building permits, like, that's one of the line item budgets. We budgeted for 10,000 in revenue for building permits. And building permits is already, I think we budgeted 10,000 in revenue for building permits, and it's already, I think, at 11,000 right now. And we still have 5 more months, like, we haven't even gone through the spring.
I did research that a little bit, and according to Iowa code, it says that it's recommended but not required to have this building inspector certified inspector. But I'm sure there's guidelines the state has set forward for building inspectors. So, you know, if we had one local that could do that part-time, it'd be great. And, you know, if he's got to go to a class in Des Moines or whatever and get him certified, but we just need to get something going. But I think a local person would work out best, especially if we had a local contractor that's familiar with all this stuff, would be really nice, so.
Yeah,
I think we need to talk about it at the next meeting, and if there's, in the meantime, if there's any interim solution, if Vinton, if their guy is willing to take on, I don't know how that would work, but, because if we get a permit pulled, then there needs to be some inspections on whatever footings or whatever happens in the next few weeks, you know, you definitely would not want to miss out on that, so I don't know.
yeah. And like I said, I know the city engineer might be able to help us a little bit, but, yeah. And there is somebody that's over at the auditor's office, because he said he must have contracting background too. And mentioned something, I don't know, like most people, I guess, do this as a side job, so I don't know. But, okay, so I'll put together maybe some options for our next meeting on what to do with that.
How do we want to pay them? That's the biggest thing. Are we going to get away from the,
Well, that's why I thought we should have a meeting, at the next meeting, because I think there's a bigger discussion there on how we're doing it and how we should be doing it.
right?
Okay, so that would be like the permit scale, fee scale. And that he gets a percentage of
We do now,
the permit, yeah.
probably should just be like an hourly wage, right? Maybe.
I can reach out and ask, like, you know, I know Centerpoint contracts with Lynn County, so I can ask them how they pay that, or how they contract, or what the contract says.
Have you talked with other towns like Charlottesburg, or, because I know they're doing a lot of building, and I would assume they have an inspector of some sort down there too.
I don't know. Okay, so for the budget, the big ones will be police. One of the items for police, if you go to expenses, that's one of the first ones. And I just wanted to show there, if I make very few changes at all, I take out, like, say we keep in a police chief, we take out the reserves, or we take out something. Right now, we have this offset of legal fees that eventually will be paid differently, but I do still have to budget for those. So, So by doing that, it pretty much just leaves the budget for police about the same. I don't know if you can see that on page 2, where it says, current budget and then new budget.
So I think that was partly my question is how do we budget for legal fees? Because shouldn't those be handled by the insurance?
Yes, so typically, I'm waiting on more guidance from the city attorney on this, but either way, this is a budget. So if the dollars are gonna come in and flow in, we still have to have a budget part there. So regardless if like, let's say, I'm just gonna use 50,000 because that's a big rounded number. Let's say we have $50,000 in legal fees that we have to pay. Well, we have to put that in our line item budget. Now, if we're gonna get reimbursed by insurance or something, then that's gonna come in as a revenue and it's going to offset that expense. But we still need to feel like we have an idea of what that budget could be.
I would just, and I think I see where you're going with that, it's like, as long as that revenue is accounted for and we're not assessing that as a, tax revenue that we're gonna collect and, you know what I mean, like, it's not going against our any other, planned, budgeted amount.
Right, so I have a call in, I think we just talked about that maybe even yesterday. I do have a call in and Brian hasn't gotten back to me yet about it, so hopefully I can get some more answers for you guys on that line item. But you can see where it kind of one washes out the other and leaves it about the same. And it's really hard too, because as long as we have more vehicle, the number of vehicles that we have, anything like that, well, all the equipment is in there. So we still are paying for all the communications equipment, all of the, utilities, anything like that we would pay previously, we are still paying. So, so right now, it's just easier to plan status quo, I think, than to take something out and then, because we can always do an amendment. But I would say it's best probably to leave it about where it is and just budget for what we think could be in there.
But that will impact our tax levy.
Yes. Yes.
Is the new budget supposed to be the 26 number?
Yeah.
Because like wages, streets says the same. That per budget, 33.5.
What page are you on?
3, just for example.
Okay, so-
First page of the budget one.
Under the expenses tab?
Okay, so
On
you
an
said,
expenses tab, yes.
you said page 3.
Of expenses, yeah.
Okay, and then which one did you say?
I'm just saying wages, streets, current budget 33.5, new budget 33.5. How could that be? I feel like none of these numbers, they all look identical. For the current and the new ones I'm reading them on. You would have, theoretically, your streets wages would be increased, right? Are you with me?
Yep. So, yes, streets 33.5.
Isn't that an increase because of last year's expense? Isn't that
No, last year's expense, the
Current
current, to me,
budget is
current
our
budget is 25,
25,
and the
and
new
new
budget
budget
is
is
26, and
I
these are
see.
the same number. There's expense 15,000, that can't be right either.
That's year to date.
That's your.
Okay, so it could be for these wages when I printed this off. I'll go back and check all of these. It could be that I have not put in like this would be the 3% now, but not the 3% for FY26.
But I'm saying, all of these expenses sheets, the expended year to date is 0. So it's like our alignment is off or something, unless these are,
Oh, no. So sorry, that is confusing. So I printed this for 6/2026. So that current budget would be what we would be budgeting
For 26.
for 26. Sorry.
uh,
What I should have done though is kept it like current year
25.
for a new budget.
normally it's in the point of view of today, right? So it's like, this can work, but usually it's.
No, I'll do that for next time. Yeah, no, I totally see what you mean. So I just should not have changed the calendar date at the top. I should have just kept that for right now, and then what the new budget will be. So I'll write myself a note there.
Because really, that's
Yep.
kind of at least my guy is what the current budget is and what the new budget is. That tells me how much
Yep.
more or less we're spending.
So actually, I can get those reprinted for you guys. If you guys want to leave your binders, I'll reprint those in the morning and get them into your binders that way. And then if you guys want to take your binders until the next meeting, that way you have those updated numbers. I'll do that in the morning. Yep. So keep it for calendar 2025 and then new budget. Okay. So I'll print both expenses, yes. So once we look at those are the big things that wages, conversation, insurance, I just have highlighted there because we really can't do something with insurance until she gets back to me, about what she thinks the percentage would be. And I know that it works for the Lions Club to come on the 28th, but they do have a proposal in here, a letter for Urbana Big Days. I think basically to ask for the same dollars as last year. And then we always do an Iowa State Extension Office summer science activities and typically pay that. Other than that, that is the big items. Let me go back to the memo here. The other big one was, we did the library. All of debt service on page 3, all of those are in your binder also. So the schedule, you know, our debt service is scheduled for each year. So it says what our principal and our interest is. So those are already there for you. So you don't have much that will change with that. The 2 big capital projects that I'll be creating a line item for will be for the overlay for Big Miller Drive, which is the $203,000 from RUT. And then of course the continued work at the North Tower for the water storage tank and booster station. That'll still be budgeted in here. What else? The lost, we will only have, according to our capital improvement plan, the only lost expense will be for the $45,000 for the chip seal at this time.
What are we, the lost, do we have any capital projects, do we have any of those slated to use lost? I can't remember.
For FY 25 or 26?
Just within the next 5 years.
Oh, yeah, Okay, so the only one that we put in for like 28, 29 were the black light poles on Wood Street in the downtown, and that was estimated for 50,000. Otherwise, Jeff, I'm pretty sure when we went through this and I worked with Maggie and I worked with Karen on allocating dollars, you had mentioned at one time that if we were able to receive up in the water revenue, that being able to use some of the lost dollars to pay on that, to try and alleviate some of that from residents if possible. So that's why we tried to stay away from a project per se, other than that chip seal that we typically do. Otherwise, trying to find out if we could utilize some of those dollars to do a pay down or paying something off before the loan comes up, and put like $100,000 down, something like that. Because we do have a little bit of a chunk in there, like, I think 288,000 right now. So if some of that could be used to help with that water, SRF loan. Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of where some of those dollars weren't necessarily taken from the loss, because that was something that I really felt I was hearing from council, that if we can keep some of that dollars available to possibly do a bit of a pay down like we do with the SRF.
Yeah.
So I know it's kind of big. I didn't want to get like right down into the little things. Like my example was like, spending, $1,000 on postage and going through every single line by line item. I feel like you guys see that in the expense reports. If there's something big that you're noticing is not getting done or coded appropriately, you would typically, I think, let me know that. Otherwise, I think by cleaning up the cash report, I think that's helped significantly. Being able, now that we've deactivated some of those, we'll now be able to deactivate them out of the budget worksheet. So some of these old projects that take up like 6 pages that all say 0, I'll be able to go in and deactivate those so that it's just easier to get through the budget. You can find what I'm looking for, type of thing. So I'll be setting up the capital accounts, which will be a 328 account for Big Miller overlay, which will be the FY26 project. Do you guys have some other questions? I will go ahead and change that revenue and expenses and get those to you tomorrow. So if you guys don't mind just keeping your binders here, I'll trade those out and then let you know when they're ready. If that works for all of you, or I'll deliver them.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it boils down to, is I just gotta be able to understand what it looks like when
Yes.
when we put all the requested expenses by department, and then what is our tax revenue. I personally would like to see us find a way to reduce the levy rate, even just by 10 cents per 1,000 or 5 cents, and not have to increase it if we can. So I really got to see what everything looks like, because I know nothing's getting cheaper.
Right, and with the ratcheting down, we get already very few dollars, new dollars coming.
Was the new insurance premiums?
Nope, I have messaged them as well.
For like property insurance?
Yep.
Okay.
I did. I messaged him as well. And of course, it's so hard because they just say, oh, it can increase anywhere from 18 to 24%. And it's like, that's a lot.
Right.
It doesn't, it basically gives me a range. But yes, I have messaged him. He hasn't been able to get back to me. I think we're a little early on some of that, like with it being right here in January. But man, I want to be right on top of it this year. So,
That's all I have.
okay. And I have the capital plan in there since we just finished it. I think that's very helpful and kind of using that as a guide. And then please, if you guys have additional questions that come up, I will definitely get those printed first thing in the morning and then email all of you, let you know that the binders are ready. And if you can't come pick them up, maybe Gary will deliver them. I'm just kidding. Or I can.
We may.
Yeah. Other than
I
that,
have one other
yeah,
thought. I wanted to bring this back around. So last year we debated with the new G-Works and the dollar charge. There seems to be quite a bit of concern about that. Do we want to
With
look
the
at just
utility.
lumping that into the budget and not assessing that?
about
The
the,
credit card.
No, the.
oh, the city
The
absorbing
EFT,
it.
yeah, the city absorbing
Okay.
it.
Yep, we did talk about that when we did that.
You're right. So I think we figured it would be like, I can't remember what it was, how much extra per year.
So there's two fees. Oh geez, I wish I would have known this. I could have printed something for you guys. I'll try and do that in the morning too for front desk. So the company does charge 2.49% plus $1 on a credit card charge.
I'm just talking
Yep,
I'm
a
just talking
debit
just
card
all
is,
I think he's just
EFT,
talking
I'm just
ACH.
talking
I know.
ACH. Yeah.
but are you saying ACH plus debit? Because a debit card is charged the same as a credit card.
Oh, I see.
So you see what I'm saying? So a debit and a credit card are both charged 2.49% plus $1. So whether it's coming, because my debit card comes straight out of my account. But what you have to do is set up the ACH from your bank, and then that's only $1, what is it?
30.
$1.30. And I think last year we had talked about absorbing the $1.30 for anyone that uses the ACH option. Because obviously if you have a debit card, you can set up your ACH that way. And I don't know, even though it's on the website, even though we put that out there, we still have people that put their debit card in. And it could be for any reason. We have people that continue to pay with their credit cards and a lot of them use it for miles. I mean, I didn't know that until they told me that. Like they pay all their bills so that they get X number of like earned miles or something. But previously, no one was charged for an ACH. If you were set up directly from your bank account to pay, that was the one that no one was charged for that previously with the previous company.
Right.
So
Just
what
a
I can
thought,
do is
just-
calculate that
Yeah.
and find out how much is it in fees that we're taking in. Actually, we don't take it in. The software company actually takes it from us before it hits the bank.
So we don't necessarily.
So they
we do
grab
switch
it.
that.
Yeah, they grab it in the mix before, so we don't get that fee at all.
Yeah, I think it's worth, while we're playing with the numbers, seeing what that looks like, I think.
Yep, I can sure do that. Okay, so I will check those 3 items and then you guys will think about wages still. And what you want me to put into the spreadsheet, or did you want me to do other options in the spreadsheet for wages, or?
Did you put a number in for you put 3% across the board?
I think the 3% is what I put in.
I'm okay with leaving it to see what that number looks like, but I think ultimately we really need to see what the growth percentage would be in determining.
I would like to see, kind of like the wages resolution where it's like person A is making this now and I propose, or this is the proposed rate. Kind of like you had with the public works, you know what I mean? So. You have.
Oh, are you talking about, sorry, I'm just staring at you like, what are you talking? Oh, you're talking about the wage reopener?
Right.
Okay, so what you would like to see is basically, I have a spreadsheet already that has this, so I can show like, deputy clerk makes this amount in FY '25, and if it's a 3% raise, it becomes this much and this much per year, and if it's like, I don't even know, are you
That's what
saying
I'm
like a $2, like dollar versus percent?
Really just what your current wage is and
If you apply the 3%.
It's
Gotcha.
just a reference.
Yep, so
Because I don't have
should
your
have put
salary
that in here.
memorized, so.
Right, well, I should have put it in here,
Alright.
because I already have it, it's a spreadsheet. So actually, why don't I just see if I can print that for you guys and put it in here also? So wages spreadsheet also. And do you want that for public works since theirs is already done for FY '26, or do you want it just for the other city employees that
I
are
think it would
not?
be helpful for anybody we're paying.
Okay. So with that, that's kind of the big picture I wanted to give tonight.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, motion for adjournment?
Motion. I'll second.
Josh.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. I couldn't get that on until after done roll call.
Oh.
So no Coke for you? No Coke for you?
I was in a hurry, I didn't even put all these.
I know, I